Well, good afternoon, y'all. This is Mark Cooper at Top Knox Fishing, and it is the end of August now. I think it's August the 22nd. It's a Saturday evening. I just got off work from a shift, and man, I've had one heck of a week at work working with the general public. It wears me out. You guys may think I'm an outgoing person by my videos and stuff, but I'm really kind of an introvert, so fishing's kind of where I go to chill out. But I'm gonna be hopping in with William and a guy he's mentoring with shooting. William's actually close to Junior Olympics level competitive skeet and trap shooter here in the US, and we are going to go chase some big catfish here today with a kid who's never really done it before. But first we've got to find some bait. They've been out trying to catch skipjack, and I think they've caught a few, and now I'm going to use a cast net to get some gizzard shad if we can't get any more skipjack. So come along with us. Well, they've had a heck of a time catching skipjack this morning, and a big front's rolled through. What we got here?
We got a couple. There's 4 of them in there.
We got 4 in there, but we're gonna go try a couple other creeks, show you where you can catch them when they're not at the dams, or not at the dams very well. And if that doesn't work, we will throw a cast net, which I freaking hate doing, and I lost the remote the last time I did it. So I'll let William hold the remote this time. Go ahead and introduce yourself too.
I'm John, live in Knoxville, Tennessee.
He shoots guns and catches fish, and hopefully he's gonna catch some big fish tonight. We're gonna try. All right, y'all, before we start catching gizzard shad, I'm gonna show you where to look for gizzard shad, and you can find them in these areas all year long. Gizzard shad are a plankton feeder, so they feed on like algae, or they're not aquatic fish feeding fish, basically. They feed on algae, plankton, and stuff like that. So they usually inhabit a certain area of the lake everywhere, and they're easier to catch in certain areas of the lake. So we're going to go to Melton Hill, which is a lake near me, and bear in mind that yes, I have caught gizzard shad in this exact spot, but you can catch them in spots like this if you learn to read the map how I'm showing you to do now. So I mean, gizzard shad are an abundant forage fish. They're all across the country. So if you're a striper, catfisherman, even bass guys catch these guys used for bass bait. Heck, even muskie eat them. So this is an excellent bait fish to start out catching. If you aren't good at catching skipjack yet, don't like it, or don't have skipjack in your area, this is a good place to start. So I'm going to pull up to the middle of the lake here. And all right, so here's the areas we're trying to look for. There's these big main river channels here that you've seen before in my other videos. This is the home of the fish, basically. But to cast net a fish, you've got to have it in shallow enough water, unless you've got a giant net that's super heavy weight, has a small mesh or a large mesh size, and they have these deep water nets. It's just really difficult. So what we're going to do is the easy button. You're going to want to look for backwater bays and coves like this that have a relatively deep channel leading back into them that shallow out here in the back. And you'll find these gizzard shad in the back of these little areas flopping on the surface. And you'll see that in the video here in a second. But these little nooks and crannies and stuff like that are where these gizzard shad are going to be sitting at. And sometimes you'll nickel and dime them and catch 1 or 2 a cast, or 1 or 2 every 3 casts, or you'll just pancake it on top of a giant school of them. But these are the type of areas you're going to want to look for gizzard shad, stuff like this. And we can go downstream. Here's another good one. Big creek that comes back in here, and it shallows out a ton back in the back. And there'll be gizzard shad in the back of these pretty much all year, even in the winter. Especially as the fall progresses and the water temperature comes down, a lot of the fish are out deep, including the bait. So it's kind of difficult to catch right now, but as the water temp moves down, all these back coves and stuff are just going to be packed with bait. So that's what I'm targeting here today on the video you're about to watch. And I'm going to show you how to throw the cast net for them as well. All right, so after hooking and losing a muskie on the sabiki rig, I'm frustrated and I'm throwing a cast net. Now we're in one of these big giant backwater bays. You can see these baits dimpling across the surface out here. And that's what you want to look for when you're trying to find gizzard shad or thread-fed shad or alewife. They'll come up to the surface and flop. The bigger the flops, the better. That means they're bigger gizzard shad. So that's what you're looking for. And here in a second, we'll show you an avionics shot of the kind of bait we're looking at. And this is a great place to come and get your catfish or striper bait easily. Now, they may not be in every bay, so you'll have to bump around until you find them. But when you do find them, usually there's a good bit of them. And it looks like we've got some decent flips in here. So we're going to try to catch a few.
Now I'm going to show you how to throw a cast net. This is just a 6-footer you can buy at Academy. This is easy to start out with. What you're going to want to do if you're right or left-handed, I'm right-handed, so I put the left hand with all the gear in it. You put this loop over your hand there, and then this is called the horn of the cast net, and you want to hold that with your left hand. Now next, you take half the net, come up, and put it in your left hand now, or right hand, depending on what you're comfortable with. And then stick your thumb out. And you're gonna take half of the lengths of the weights on the bottom of the net down here and then wrap it around the top of your thumb. So now I'm holding it like that, and you can see some of the net's elevated and some of it's below. And then we're gonna take just a piece of the link. You can either throw it over your shoulder, or I'll just bite the rope in between the two weights. It tastes like shad, it's nasty, but it's quicker than throwing it over your shoulder and you don't get soaked. And then you grab a good piece of line here, make sure you don't got any tangles down there, and just rotate and throw. That's all there is to it for a net this size. The bigger nets, you've got to do some other stuff, but a 6-footer is good to start out with if you're new to this. Let's see what we got in here. I don't know if we got anything, but that was a good throw. Nope. Nothing. Let's try another. When you get good at it, you can do it pretty quickly. It'll become kind of muscle memory. You just keep throwing it until you find them. Sometimes you'll nickel and dime them to death, and other times you'll just land it on a school.
There's a couple in there.
Yeah. We got a couple good gizzard shad.
There's also a sunfish in the top of it.
Yep, we gotta let that sunfish go because it's technically a game fish. You can't keep it on the net. John, if you'll grab them gizzard shad, you can throw it show them to the camera there. A couple of decent ones.
There went the sunfish.
Boy, don't be afraid of it. Grab that sucker. He ain't gonna hurt you. Look at that guy.
Here,
It's called
we'll
a gizzard shad.
grab him like that.
Nice looking bait.
Something like that. If you'll open up the cooler, we'll get them situated in there. Picked up another? Very nice.
Yep. These are medium-sized ones. Sometimes you can get some like 2 and 3 pound shad, which are the big giant ones. I like those the best.
Oh, we're good now, John. We just get them on the ice.
Keep them fresh. Keep them fresh, baby. You ain't fishing with no nasty bait.
No, good bait makes so much difference.
All right, we're gonna get back to it, get us up on some bait, and then we're gonna go drifting down on Watts Bar and catch some fish.
I'm recording.
Well, here's one of them that you hope for. Covered in bait. Yeah, baby.
Got 5. That ain't bad.
Alrighty.
Good deal. Let's get some more.
So now I'm going to give you a couple of final tips to finding gizzard shad and where they're more prevalent in back bays than other back bays. If you can find a back bay with like a culvert with moving water pushing into the creek, that's a great place to find them because that's bringing nutrients into that creek system and stuff for them to feed on, and that's one of the places where I've found and caught the most gizzard shad. So when you're bumping around to these different back bays on whatever lake or river system you're on, look for a culvert that's got moving water coming in and out of it because that current flow will attract those gizzard shad to that area. It also changes the water color up and will stain it a bit, which is good. And it brings in the food they eat into that area so they'll congregate more around that culvert pipe generally. Some lakes have more gizzard shad than others, so if you've got multiple lakes around you, maybe do some asking around to find out which one has the most gizzard shad, and then just focus your time there on catching bait so you can have more time to go chase the big fish. And what else? And as you're doing this, what I showed you in the video was a 6-foot cast net. You can move up to an 8 or even a 10 once you get more proficient in throwing it. And then those larger cast nets have more lead per foot on the net itself, which means that one, it's harder to throw, it's heavier, it's more physically demanding, but two, it sinks way faster and you can catch more shad because immediately when it opens up, boom, it's on the bottom and those fish can't swim out from under it. So start out with a 6-footer, maybe a 4, but it's going to be hard to catch bait with that. I would start with a 6, practice in your yard some on how I showed you to throw it. There's a few more in-depth videos on throwing the cast net on YouTube, but that's just generally how I do it. Throw it in your yard or your driveway or whatever, and then take it out on the water and just practice throwing it. And if it's a windy day, make sure you're not throwing into the wind because that'll close that net. Throw away from the wind. So get it at your back and then chuck it. It'll actually help it open up a little bit more and you'll be able to throw it further. But that's basically all there is to catching gizzard shad. It's not a super difficult process. You're just going to have to put some time on the water, finding out where they're at in your area and learn how to throw the cast net and what time of day they're in those certain areas and stuff like that. But those big back bays like I showed you on the Avionics and where I caught mine are going to hold gizzard shad most of the year. Good luck, tight lines. Hit that like and subscribe button if this has helped you out. We'll catch you on the next video.